Now, on to one of today's main news stories, and Health Secretary Wes Streeting has said there's no budget for an assisted dying service, which MPs backed in a landmark vote on Friday. The bill, which now needs to go through the House of Lords, would mean that mentally competent, terminally ill adults in England and Wales with a life expectancy of less than 6 months would be eligible for an assisted death. We're joined now on the phone by campaigner Dame Esther Rantzen, who's been a huge supporter of the bill following her own terminal cancer diagnosis 2 years ago. Dame Esther, hello, good afternoon, and it's so good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. Before we talk about the end-of-life bill, and I know you've got an awful lot to say, may we just wish you a very happy birthday for yesterday, your 85th birthday. How did you spend the day? How was your birthday?
Well, it was lovely, actually, because I had my grandchildren with me and a few additional children, and we had lunch in the garden. And no, it was a very nice day, and it meant that I could just drift away quietly and have a little rest when that was necessary, because one of the things about cancer, which I think people don't realise, I didn't realise, is that it can create fatigue, which means that you can't do the things you would like to do, like, for example, join loose women. I mean, I like being loose, as you possibly
Well,
get.
listen, you know, you're welcome any time. We saw a lovely picture of you there sitting in the garden, and as you said, you know, surrounded by your family, your grandchildren, who I know you adore. There must have been a time, I'm presuming, when you wondered whether you would make your 85th birthday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was diagnosed, my friends who had lung cancer fell off their perches within weeks of diagnosis. So I thought I had a very, very short time, and that's why I quickly signed up for Dignitas. So I could choose an assisted death if things got really rough. But they've got these amazing new drugs now which target the specific kind of cancer you've got. And I had one of those drugs which lasted for quite some time. It's not working now, but it did for some time. So I've had this additional couple of years, which I certainly didn't expect. Who knew I'd be 85? Heavens.
Well, we're very pleased that you made it to your 85th birthday, and so pleased you're surrounded by family. Let's talk about the terminally ill end-of-life bill, passed in the Commons on Friday. This is Ken Leadbeater's bill. How did you feel? You've been a campaigner, a very vocal campaigner for this bill. How did you feel when you heard it had been passed? Well,
enormous relief. If you had said to me at the time of my diagnosis, will you do a campaign for this very important bill? I mean, I've always, my late husband, Desmond Wilcox, made documentaries on this subject. We both felt strongly that people should have the choice over their own death. It's not a question of shortening your life. It's a question of shortening your death. And we've always thought that that was a very important freedom for people to have that choice. But I would never have thought I could campaign for it. I mean, as I say, the actual illness causes quite a lot of fatigue, and I didn't think I'd be able to do that. But what happened was, after I'd mentioned that I was, as I put it, buzzing off to Zurich to get an assisted death, if that became necessary, I was inundated with messages from other people who'd watched loved ones die in pain or in indignity, very unhappy, begging to be helped to die with no one able to do that. And also a lot of messages about assisted death in Zurich, and no one saying that it was difficult, except from the point of view of having to go alone, because, as of course you know, under the criminal law, as it is at the moment, if anybody goes with me to Zurich, they'll be investigated by the police for forcing me to kill myself, which is ridiculous and wrong when people are suffering great loss and bereavement. And incidentally, that's why Keir Starmer supports it, because as DPP, he saw how wrong the criminal law is at the moment and how radically it needs changing.
Esther, it's always lovely to talk to you, and I'm so glad that you're with us today. I just wondered two things, really. first of all, whether you feel, as the Health Secretary has said, Wes Streeting, that it's a kind of financial concern for the NHS and whether that should be taken into account. But also, you could be seen, really, as an advert for why we shouldn't have assisted dying, because you had your diagnosis in 2023, and here you are talking to us, and very much alive, thank goodness, and yet you could have, had it been in place, you could have made a different decision at that time.
Not under the new bill, because I haven't yet been given that important 6 months deadline, literal deadline, because nobody knows. I'm due to have another chemotherapy session this week, and then I'll have a scan so that they can see what is happening to this cancer and whether it's started to spread or not, whether it's still being held back. So under the new law, I would not be eligible. And that's the difficulty about going to Zurich. People have to go at a time when they can physically make that flight. So they have to go earlier than is necessary. When it comes to the question of cost, I just don't understand Wes Streeting's maths. I know that he's adamantly opposed to assisted dying. He's made that quite clear. But I don't know why it's more expensive for someone to end their life earlier, because these are all people who are under treatment. These are people who may be under 24/7 care, may be under expensive medication. So how can it be more expensive if they ask to be assisted to die? I don't understand that.
I think it's possibly, Dame Esther, from how I understand it, it's possibly because it has to go before a multidisciplinary panel, and that comprises of a social worker, a lawyer and a psychiatrist. So possibly, I don't know, I'm just saying you're wondering why. I wonder, is that why? Because there would be more people would have to be involved in that decision process.
Yeah, but on a panel. I mean, I'm sure you're on a panel. Well, you're quite expensive, aren't you?
Very.
No, I'm cheap.
Esther, lovely to speak to you. The bill was passed. It was very close, the votes for the bill. 314 for against 291 votes. And you were speaking earlier about different concerns that people have. What would you say about the concerns that people have about coercion and people not mentally being able to make that decision? And even to the point of, you know, what do you say about if you've got some doctors who just take control and take it into their own hands to assist illegally? What do you say about the controls that can be put in place for things like that?
Well, at the moment, we don't have any precautions, do we? I mean, people can be coerced, people can be bullied, people can be pressured. And as you say, I mean, let's be honest with each other. There was a time before Shipman, before the serial killer Shipman, when doctors used to make that decision. I mean, famously, I think it was George V that was eased out of life by his own royal doctor in order that his death could make the appropriate news bulletin. I mean, that wasn't the king's decision. The difference is that the choice is being made by the patient. And I think some people do find that difficult. I mean, some of my closest relatives and best friends are psychiatrists, but I'm not sure psychiatrists are always happy to give control back to the patients. But that's what we're asking for. We're saying, it's my death. Please give me the choice of deciding when life becomes unendurable, too painful, too undignified, when I would prefer, please, to be helped to ease out of life. And I want a pain-free death. I want a swift, pain-free death. And that's what they can give me now. So if it's my choice, please give me the right to that choice.
Yeah, amazing. Hello, Esther. I mean, you're such a strong woman and so positive. How do you manage to maintain all of this with everything you're going through? And you must be so proud equally of your daughter, Rebecca, who's very much behind you in this campaign.
Rebecca's been amazing. I mean, she's been so supportive to me in so many ways. She's taken on my role as president of Childline, she's officially deputy president, but she's meeting the volunteer counsellors, she's listening to children, she's trained herself as a Childline volunteer. She's doing wonderful things, and this is not easy for her because it means she's got to talk about my death all the time, and I've got to talk about my death all the time. I do, yes. Shall we change the subject? Shall we talk about...
Esther, do you think the bill goes far enough?
Well, you're asking me my personal opinion?
Yes.
No, I don't. I think there are people suffering from other conditions. One of my closest friends has Parkinson's, and I wish the bill gave her the right to choose, but it doesn't. She has to have this 6-month terminal diagnosis. So there are other, there's motor neuron, there's all kinds of really difficult, painful conditions that will eventually bring about people's deaths, but doesn't give them the right to choose. But I absolutely accept that we had to, if we were going to get the law changed, it had to be changed in a way that was acceptable to most MPs. And you say it was a narrow margin, but when you think that the last time it was debated in Parliament, there was a vast majority against it. So it is wonderful that we've got enough evidence from around the world, enough evidence from other countries that have reformed their own laws to understand what would be practical, what would work best for this country, and what we could achieve in Parliament. And that's what we've done.
Dame Esther, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, the bill now is with the Lords, and we just have to wait and see. In the meantime, we send you all our love from here at Loose Women, and to Rebecca, who's been on the show several times, who's a great credit to you. And as you said, she's doing a terrific job in your name. Thank you so much for talking to us, and please take care of yourself.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, great to talk to Dame Esther there. And if you have been affected by anything that we were discussing, visit our website where you can find details of helplines.